Good evening, everyone. And Adam is missing. Hold on. Let's see. Your face is missing, Adam.
Joyous.
They can probably hear
Best
you.
part of me.
Let's see where your face is. Hold on. Come on, Adam. Up. There he is. There's Adam.
There you go.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, how is
I'm a little
everybody?
dark, so you probably don't benefit too much from the fact that you can see my face. I am in the darkness at the moment. I need to sort out my lighting situation.
I don't know. It's not so terrible, actually. It's not really that bad. I think you just scared everybody on the spectrum with your face being so close.
Well, that less question to ask, so that'd be good, yeah.
So, how are you tonight?
Really good, yeah, really good. Getting a little bit cold for winter, as winter is really biting now in the southeast UK and Kent. But yeah, obviously lots to talk about this evening, and my team has been really busy. So yeah, we're looking forward to Christmas, and we're pleased with how the year has gone so far.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had you on stream as well, hasn't it?
Well, to be fair, it's actually not been so bad.
Is it not?
It's just that the streams seem to fall right on the edges of the month. So actually, it's almost a different month every time I take part.
It feels like it's been longer than it has been.
Yes, that is true, and I have to put my hand up and say I completely missed the 4-Up challenge. I was meant to be on the previous 4-Up challenge, and that completely failed me. So yeah, there was just a wonderful blank space. There wasn't even like a rest in peace sign or anything like that. So.
Oh well, I guess you forfeited that one.
Yes, well, I got completely confused that I'm obviously up for another 4-Up challenge, and that was the one I was planning for. The next one that comes up, and so I was completely caught off guard that I was needed on a even more recent one, and that's where I tried to do the driving on the German railway lines, and just failed completely. I couldn't bring it together when it was required, so I do apologise that I missed that one.
I'm sure everybody will forgive you. Just this one.
I've got to win the next one though.
Now, for any new faces that are joining us for the roadmap, can you actually tell us who you are and what you do here at Dovetail, Adam?
Yes, so I am senior producer, or one of senior producers at Dovetail Games. I'm full-time on the Train Sim World franchise, and I manage a little team that consists of various art, coding, audio, setup, team members, gameplay as well. And what we do is any railway lines or trains that we've already released that are out to be enjoyed for Train Sim World, we make sure that those already released trains and routes have all the latest and greatest features. So as we develop Train Sim World, the software, the underlying software, over time, obviously newer routes and trains will have new features, updated technology. And that means that the older routes and trains will go out of sync. So it's our job to go back and add these new features that have been created, so that the entire catalogue, the entire available selection, all has the same kind of player experience. So an obvious one to go with is level crossings. When we first released routes in Train Sim World, the level crossings were static. They didn't animate. They didn't react to the train, and now they do. So we've gone back to all the level crossings across all our previous routes and added that functionality in, which gives a bit more life to the route. And there's a whole plethora of examples of that, basically. So yeah.
Now, obviously, we've added quite a lot of preservation updates onto the roadmap this week, and this is something we'll go into more detail with later in the stream. But we've also mentioned, Adam, that you've actually been working quite closely with our external developers lately, and you've got some new responsibilities now as well, don't you?
Yes, so I think it might have been mentioned previously on another stream maybe, but not in too much detail. It's still in the planning stages. But basically, because of the varied and wide skill set that my little team has, we can offer an awful lot of technical support to third-party developers such as Rivet Games and Skyhook Games, that most may have heard of. And that means that we've been already heavily involved in supporting them in the development of their projects, as they've been working with Trains in World. Now, because of that, and because the current, or the I should say now the previous third-party team were originally managing our Train Sim 2022 third-party developers, they were struggling with being able to provide the same level of support that the preservation crew could. And it ended up being that they were just fielding a lot of their communication to us, which is perfectly fine. You know, we want to provide the best service we can, so let's give it to the people who have the knowledge. And then it became a case of, well, why are they just forwarding on all the emails to us all the time, and the communication? Why don't we, you know, make this more efficient? So at the end of October, early November, we decided that actually it would be beneficial going forward that my team directly look after and directly manage the third-party relationships that we have.
Now, how has that been
on the technical
going?
level, basically. Go on, sir.
How has that been going, working with the third parties developers? Has that been a time-consuming process? Is this something that is going to distract you and your team from your everyday responsibilities, or is it something that you're able to balance quite nicely?
Well, given that we had already been doing a lot of the technical support with them, because what we want to do is save any of that communication being put onto the main development team, you know, not really much has changed from a support side of things. What has happened is we've just got a much closer relationship. So we're having the discussions directly with the developers. We're talking to them about what products and trains they're thinking of. We're directly having the phone calls and saying, okay, you need to edit this in Unreal, or you need to change that tick box, or you need to use these files, or this as an example. So nothing really changes on the workload from the preservation crew. Maybe there's some more management requirements on me, but what it does mean is that it opens up all that available skill set and knowledge from the preservation crew, who've already been working across a massive spectrum of the Train Sim World catalogue, directly with those developers. So instead of them having a Dovetail Games contact, and then that contact would go off, get the information, come back, and then go back to the third party. The third party, I can connect, say, an audio guide directly with their team, or I can connect an environment artist directly with their team, and they can have that exchange. So hopefully we'll see some, you know, a step up in quality, and hopefully it will mean that they feel a lot more confident about the things they're developing. And also, I think what we'll do is try and be a lot closer on what projects, what routes and trains get chosen to go forward as well, so that we're all working with everybody's strengths.
Yep.
And not necessarily, at least at the moment I'm feeling, not necessarily trying to do something spectacular every time out of the box, unless we're going to do a really, really good job of it.
Now, before we continue with the roadmap, apparently there are some technical issues with Twitch tonight. I'm not sure what's going on, but there's no audio or picture on Twitch. So
Oh dear.
I know, it's unfortunate. So mods, if you could please encourage anybody on Twitch to watch on YouTube, please, and if you could share the link in the chat, that would be incredibly useful. I'm just going to try and stop the stream on Twitch now, as I can't get it working while we're live. So I'll just do that. Now, Adam, we'll get back on track with the roadmap now. So obviously you've said this relationship with the third parties is you've been improving this relationship, and obviously we've been working very closely. Would you say this has helped? Is our relationship different with our third parties now than it has been? Because I know that I personally have found it to be an improvement. What's it like for you and your team?
It definitely feels better that we're closer. in terms of that direct communication. There's less people involved in the process, so even the current third-party team now feel better that they're able to focus on one particular franchise instead of trying to manage both of them. So yeah, it feels like it's a lot more efficient so far. And as we've said a long time with the preservation crew, that it's more the results will only come in when you actually start to see change. So we can talk about it a lot, but yeah, it feels good so far, and I think I feel really confident that good things are going to come out of this for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, while we're talking third parties, I think it would be a natural segue to talk about one of the new additions on the roadmap today, which is, of course, the Rhb Anniversary Collection, which is going to be developed by Rhb Games. Now, what can you tell us about that, Adam? What do you know about it, and have you been helping them with this?
So yes, we've definitely been helping them. Because it is an add-on for the Arosa. Do we call it a Rosalina, or are we allowed to say a Rosa line? But it's definitely an add-on for their existing route. A Rosa line, cool. Yeah. So yeah, this is an add-on for their Rosa line route. And also, I believe there was a stream last night previewing it.
No, last night was for the G6.
The G6, okay, yes, the G6 release. Okay, so the Anniversary Collection is a set of liveries for the locomotive, the GE 442, and this is basically to celebrate that locomotive and the different striking people that are involved in the I think it is the Swiss history. And Rhb Games have done a fantastic job at recreating each of these liveries. They will appear all as the same locomotive in the game, so we won't flood the menu with many of these GE 442s, but in addition to that, they're also looping in an additional carriage. So this is the opened top carriage, which fascinates me because I'm thinking Swiss mountains, it's got to be very cold.
Yes, I was thinking that, and I asked them the same question. I was like, surely the open carriage can't actually be used in winter, but apparently it is.
Yeah, no, it's very popular, and Jamie, our very own Jamie, has ridden it and ridden the line as well. So we've had some great insights from him and some stories. I've still yet to see him prove that he claims his face is on the side of one of these locomotives, but I do believe, I'm sure it's true. I'm sure it is. But yeah, so we've got this fantastic little carriage. We've got a selection of reskins for the locomotive, and then they're also putting together a gameplay pack, so there'll be some more scenarios to enjoy. Obviously there won't be any training because it's the same locomotive, so
I think there's one tutorial.
I wonder if that's related to, because I haven't actually looked at the training section, but I wonder if that's related to other aspects of the pack. But yeah.
My Life as Isaac has asked, is the Rhb Anniversary Pack a free update, as it's the same trains on the Arosa line? So it's not a free update, but you do get some scenarios in it. And
there is a new timetable,
There's a new timetable, and while we're talking about timetables, obviously on the roadmap we have the update to the Arosa timetable. Will this be implemented by the time the pack releases?
So it is because of the changes and improvements that they put into their new timetable that they're including with this pack. Any of the improvements they've made have been implemented into the original one as well. So that those updates to the original, the route timetable, will be rolled out free in the support patch that will appear before that pack is released. Excellent.
And just for anybody that heard the word free, it is the update that will fix the timetable. That is free, not the pack that is free. But no, I did.
Yeah, this is a miniature pack. It's got rolling stock. It's got gameplay. It's got timetables. So there's quite a nice little selection of stuff there.
Yeah, and we were actually given a little demonstration of what the pack's going to look like the other day, weren't we, Adam? And
yeah,
I particularly like the carriage with the twinkly lights.
Yes. And again, I don't want to let all the cat out the bag. I'm sure there's going to be more information about the pack. But yeah, they've also done some special stuff with it as well. Not that is permanent to the pack, but is part of the theming that is going with that pack. So there's some great things to enjoy. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Why isn't it free like the Amtrak 50th pack on TS1? Because I believe this contains more than the Amtrak 50th anniversary one would. That's probably why.
Yeah, I mean, it's not pricing is not an area that I even get involved in. That's going to be Mike the T-boy, as Sam would say.
Yeah, I guess this is just one of those ones that can't be free. Let's have a look. Are Rhb going to fix the 150 sound?
At this point in time, I don't personally know, but I actually still have a guy from the... So, sorry, just to backtrack a very tiny amount for that question. We did gain some staff from the merge of the preservation crew and the third-party team. Mm-hmm. Those that were dedicated to the Trains in World side. So that means at the moment I have a deputy representative that still manages a lot of those aspects for me as we get into understanding what's going on. But that means that the preservation crew team has also been boosted by staff. So that's really cool. So at the moment he's doing a lot of the coordination for me. A guy called Ryan, a fantastic guy. I'm really looking forward to what he's going to bring to the preservation crew. And he's looking forward to how we can support. So yeah, that's not a question I know the answer to just yet, but I'm sure it'll be answered before the pack is released.
Yeah, and I'm seeing a lot of people asking about the price right now. I don't have any details about that yet.
Roadmap,
no, it's not the correct stream for that. We will obviously share. Chances are the price will be shared in either a preview stream or in a article that will come along with it closer to release. But for Piet Hamster asking how many services will there be, there will apparently be 94.
Yes, there are, and I may get this wrong, I do apologise. There are 10 more than the current timetable service. But I won't go into the details of what they are. That's either for a later stream or to be discovered when it's available.
Absolutely. Now, some more additions to the roadmap. The other big hitter, I believe, this time was obviously the addition of the Harlem line to Grand Central Station to North White Plains, or Grand Central Terminal even, should I say.
Yes, yeah. In America, it's not blasphemous, I would say, but to call a station that only has one entry and exit for trains, to call it a station, it is technically a terminal. The trains do terminate.
Everybody calls it station.
I know, and certainly anyone working there would probably grind their teeth if you were to call it a station. Yeah.
Well, I'll be more aware of that in the future. I'm not going to be able to call it Grand Central Station anymore.
No, it's Grand Central Terminal. I think maybe there may be confusion because there's like bus lines involved, or there's other transport involved, so there's metro systems. But I think the term is Grand Central Terminal.
Now, what can you tell us about this, Adam? Do you have any information about it, or it's kind of out of your remit, really, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. This is not part of the thing we're involved in. Obviously, I'm aware of what's going on with the main team, and we lend a hand whenever it's necessary, but this is one of the developments of the main team, so that's not under our remit.
Is it something you're looking forward to, then?
I'm definitely a multiple unit fan, an electric multiple unit fan, so I am looking forward to the new M units. Mm-hmm. I got confused, and when we were given the details about what was included, I was questioning. I thought it was the Long Island Railroad that had the odd number. Was it the even number of the odd? No, it is the odd numbered ones, and therefore the New York Harlem line had the even numbered units. But apparently there are even and odd numbered units north of New York. So I was fascinated in all the M units that operate around New York. So that was my little interest.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I was talking to you about this earlier, and I'm interested to see what it looks like from a sort of driver's point of view. Because
coming into New York.
Yeah, because I've been to Grand Central as a tourist, and I've seen the whole, was it foyer or whatever you call it, and it's incredible. But obviously, as a driver, we're not going to be showing that off at all, are we?
So I don't know to what extent they're going to develop the terminal, but obviously it will be from the train driving perspective. And yes, it was probably at least over a century ago when the railways first arrived into New York. Obviously, they were all above ground. But the railways realised that they were taking up an awful lot of expensive space on the Manhattan Island, and so a great way they found of making money was to sell what's called the air rights over the top of the station, and they allowed businesses to build on top of their railway lines. Obviously, still allowing the trains to run underneath. They didn't just build on top of the track, but it meant that it put all the railway lines coming into New York underground, and therefore actually I'm going to get it totally wrong. I don't know. I'm not going to say the street or the road, the avenue that it is, but there's obviously a road directly north of Grand Central Terminal that goes in a straight line for a very long time, and then suddenly it turns into railway lines. Well, that is the tunnel that the trains approaching Grand Central Terminal now take from the north end of the island. And so actually, in terms of what you will see of the New York skyline, will again, just like Long Island Railroad, will be from a distance, because directly in the middle of Manhattan, you'll be underground. And the thing that I find the most fascinating about Grand Central Terminal...
Park Avenue, by the way.
Park Avenue, thank you very much. That's the one, Park Avenue. Is that maybe, they can answer this question as well, is that because they made it a park and then they put cars on it afterwards or something? I don't know. But the thing I find most fascinating about Grand Central Terminal is that it's a double-deck station. There are 2 levels of tracks and platforms. So there's this amazing building that you mentioned, obviously the entrance hall, but actually the size of the station underneath is much larger. And then also there is a turning loop. So not all the trains that run to Grand Central Terminal can be driven from both ends or have a locomotive at both ends. And so they use a loop directly underneath the station to turn those trains around, which I think is fascinating. I don't know many other stations in the world that do that. That's quite unique.
Yeah, that sounds incredibly unique. Yeah, excellent. Now, Adam, while you're taking some of your drink, can you just make sure everybody knows that is not beer you're drinking?
B.O.?
Beer.
Beer. No, my poison this evening has a big R on it. So,
there we go.
Take what you will.
So for those of you wondering if Adam is a bit too relaxed on the stream, he is not.
It's my persona. I'm just a relaxed person. I love what I do, and I love being here to answer questions for people.
Excellent. Now, let's talk preservation updates, because we have added a lot to the roadmap today. First of all, can we talk about the Oakville Subdivision, because that has moved up from in production to upcoming?
Yes, so pretty much that's just confirmation that we're no longer working on the Oakville Subdivision. We have done our pass of main features for that route, so that's alongside already Rhb and Peninsula Corridor in that list for upcoming. So basically this is adding the PIS system to the stations. This is adding level crossings, or grade crossings, I should say, apologies. This is improving the track rendering distance so that you don't see the sleepers appearing in front, improving the sky, adding platform climb up, improving the passengers. So a whole raft of things that we've done to the route, along with, that we've done to other routes as well. And yeah, we've done that pass. My team has now moved on to other routes, and that's where we added them into the in production section.
So now you say that the team has finished with the Oakville Subdivision. What is happening with it now? If you're finished, why isn't it just released?
Again, it's that horrible, dirty phrase. We're waiting for a release slot. Okay. We it is very frustrating. I have had a number of chats on Discord recently with various developers wondering why this is going on. And yeah, it is still frustrating that we haven't released yet. We're back into the situation we were in the first half of the year. There's just so much going on, not only in my team but across Dovetail, that yeah, it is difficult. However, there is movement in getting stuff updated. I can now confirm that a lot of this stuff is with QA. with our QA team, and they're beginning to look at it. So that's really great. But yeah, it comes back to the whole talk about maybe we should approach smaller updates more frequently instead of big deep dives.
Yeah, this is something we said we'll discuss with the players tonight. So I think we might as well have that conversation now. Can we talk about our testing process? Can we talk about the QA, how it impacts the preservation crew? And what are we doing to improve it? Because I think, we've had this conversation before, and it was a few months ago now where we said, we're looking at doing less more often. We're looking at changing the way we do our QA so that more preservation stuff comes out. And at the moment, it's not really looking like anything has changed from when we had those conversations months ago. So can you tell us what is changing, what has changed, and what are we doing to improve things, Adam?
So basically, we started to look at the release schedule, and from what we could establish with the number of platforms that we have to release on, there were no other opportunities or slots to be able to get even more updates out to players and out to the software than are already going on. So we have to piggyback onto other releases. Now, contrary to popular belief, we do update Trains in World and a number of the routes and trains. With every single release, there is a release, there is a patch that generally goes out on the Monday or the Tuesday before the Thursday main release.
Yeah.
And this will have anything generally that's related or similar to what is coming out, or it will be the really important things, the really hitting things that players have reported back that we've had absolute priority, or not necessarily me, but anyone, Dovetail, the main team as well, have been fixing that need to go out, as urgently as possible. Mm-hmm. So we do a release. We do an update every single time there is anything coming out. But yeah, because we can't get any more releases against those that are already occurring, we've had to look at, well, how can we break down all the things we've done? Mm-hmm. And of the big long list that I've now got, the big backlog that my team's been working on, one approach we have taken is to start separating out what's a high risk change and what's a low risk change. Obviously, the high risk changes make us very nervous about putting out, and it means we have to spend a lot of time in QA and having it tested and getting our Discord and beta teams to have a look and play with it for longer.
Could you give me an example of what would be a high-risk item that perhaps is already released?
So this would be playing with the NPC navigation.
Right.
So this is the characters on the platforms, where they can go if they're getting stuck somewhere,
yep.
if they're moving around in places or they're walking down to the track. If we go and mess with that, that can have knock-on effects to how the trains operate in that station. It can have knock-on effects to the lighting, surprisingly enough, and the shadowing of a particular station. So a high-risk change is messing with the... we have to do these things because there's an issue that we potentially need to resolve or a feature we want to upgrade. But touching that can have knock-on effects that might not be obvious. So we need more time. We need to be thorough in looking at those.
So that is sort of a time sink for the QA team as well.
Yes, and obviously QA then see those tests as very expensive in time and manpower, and that's when they start looking at what they've already got on their schedule, and they can't find slots big enough to get some of these in.
Yep.
And obviously a lot of the features, the big features we've done to upgrade the older routes and trains, a lot of them are high-risk changes. We've done some significant lifting of the products. So there was a lot of concern that they were very big changes and they would cost a lot in terms of time. But on the flip side, there are an awful lot of low risk as well. In fact, there are probably 2/3 to 3/4 of the things we've done are low risk, partly because they're easy to go in and change, they're easy to fix. Their player feedback, or this didn't work, or that particular train. I think there was one recently where a vehicle was flipped the wrong way round when they put it through the livery designer, and that was a case of opening up the formation, checking why it was flipped, or what was causing it, and then maybe it was a tick box. And that's a very isolated change. So we've changed one train formation that occurs only in a very particular situation with delivery designer, that means the QA team can go in, check that it's now doing what it's supposed to be doing, and tick, it's done, the check is good. We'll obviously do it in different languages as well, and we'll get the beta team to check. But it's things like that, updating the Sky so that it's going from the first generation Skybox to the second generation Skybox. That doesn't have any impact, or a very wide-ranging impact across different parts of the software. And we've done 20 routes with that upgrade already, so we know what the scope of risk is for that particular upgrade. Now what we're talking with QA is that a lot of the low risk stuff they will be able to do alongside the tests they do for similar routes. So if we've got a German route in testing, they'll also be able to load up low risk changes to other German routes on the Preserve collection. And that is how we're then going to create, if we can get QA signing off a lot of the low risk stuff, we can then start creating these bite-sized packs, which is
where we deliver less more often, and then we deliver some of those high risk ones in those slots when they're ready.
Yes, and it means that we can go back to management and say, right, we've got a number of high risk changes here that we're going to have to schedule particular time for, we need resources for, and then we can move it forward that way. And so it separates out the easier stuff from the difficult stuff, even though we've done it all. And there's nobody out there in the entire Train Sim franchise that wants this stuff out more than the preservation crew. It's no good us sitting fixing and improving a load of stuff if nobody can benefit from it. So we are number one on the list of we want it out.
I think, except maybe the community. They might be up there with you. No.
The community to get this stuff out, I can promise you. We can burn the ear of Matt Pedleston and say, why is this not happening?
I see. So, we've got this plan, and it all sounds wonderful. And this is where we want it to be. How far away are we from achieving that, Adam? Is it very much a case of, this is what we're aiming for, we haven't made any progress towards it yet, or are we actually taking some good steps towards getting there?
So that high risk, low risk evaluation is going on at the moment. And obviously, if Sam were here, he'd be definitely pinning me down, saying no aspirations.
I was going to say,
you're going to do it or you're not. Obviously, I want it out as soon as possible. If we can get some stuff aligned with every release, then I'm happy. Even if we get one or two fixes out at a time, getting fixes out makes a difference. We're doing the high risk, low risk at the moment. I'd imagine that will be finished by Christmas, and then the new year. So I would say definitely you're looking at 2022 for any stuff from the preservation crew at the moment, which isn't the news I wanted to bring. We were aiming for a lot of stuff to come out. We were aligning it with releases as we come into Christmas. It didn't come together. Again, there's nobody more disappointed than the preservation crew.
I was going to say, you were slightly disappointed with that, weren't you, Adam?
Slightly is a nice way of putting it, yes.
Now, I actually have a question. You mentioned skyboxes. Now, isn't there a skybox that you're implementing that you had some assistance with a community member from?
Yes. Josh, who goes by the tag London Midland. Again, I've been having some great conversations with him, and I did have to apologise and say that it has taken longer than expected. But that falls into the high risk category.
I was going to say, did it fall foul of the system where it requires an awful lot of QA time to make sure that it's not going to have a knock-on effect on everything?
It did, yes, because actually that change is to the core software. So that would actually benefit the entire spectrum of routes. And so that means that when we put it out, we do have to check an awful lot of stuff. And sure enough, when we were checking this, we found that it had a negative impact on the light rain, the light cloud weather pattern. And this weather pattern is featured in pretty much every route we have. It's not used pretty much everywhere, but it does feature everywhere, and so you can do it. You can use this weather pattern in timetable mode. And so if we're going to make a change that has a benefit to the whole game, we really want to be there. But if it then brings in its own bugs, at the moment we're safer staying where we are while we try and work out the core fix to that. And he's even given me some pointers as well on what else we could be looking at, and I've shown him what the issue was. So that if he comes up with a fix for it, then we'll definitely be interested. And we've also talked about a rain mod as well. So I think at the moment I want to prove that we can do that turnaround with on mod, and then we'll look at the second one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I absolutely love this interaction. But I did have to apologise to him. It is taking longer than expected, for sure.
Yeah, because obviously being a community member as well, it's quite well known with everybody that was being worked on.
No, it's really good. It's a great development, and hopefully there'll be more in the future.
Look, just got a few questions in the chat. Let's try and get through some of them. So Sean now said, what about the livery designer bug on PlayStation 5? So if that's the issue where some of the carriages...
Is it the low quality, isn't it?
No, that was a different one, I think. This one is where it literally, there are parts of the consists which are missing. They look invisible.
Oh.
Yeah, it's really odd. But yeah, we are aware of that one. If it is the pixelating one, please take some pictures for us, like screenshots. Tell us where you are, what route you're using, what logo you're using. Feel free to tag me, and that would be really helpful, so we can pass it along to the team.
Yeah, because even if the main team have progressed and have a fix for that, what those additional reports help with is showing us other things to test, so that they know if they have properly fixed it, because they've got more and more examples of where it's occurring. So as I say, even though we might have said that a fix is in testing right now, continue to report any instances. It's useful.
Any kind of, I think Matt has explained it before, and I'm sure everybody is sick of us repeating it, but if you can provide us with any kind of videos or imagery of what's going on with your problems, specifically videos, it's really, really helpful to the team. So yeah, please do provide us with as much information as you can. MSA is asking, what is new about the Scenario Planner 2? Currently, there is nothing new to share.
Still in planning.
Still in planning, yeah. When we have more to share with that, we will, but at the moment, nothing new.
I will say that we're involved, the preservation crew is involved, because just like adding scenario designer support to the preserve collection, as well as livery designer compatibility, we have to know what the spectrum of those updates or those changes are, those additions are, so that we know how it might affect the preserve collection, and if there's work involved in that, and whether we want to get that work done in advance or whether it's going to be a rolling program. So the preservation crew is definitely involved in that process.
And just to quickly circle back onto release slots, because I think they've kind of confused a few people. So Triple J814 asks, can you explain release slots? There was a game update yesterday and last week. Why can't the preservation stuff go out with those updates? Now, the update and the slots are very different, right?
So basically, seeing something come out means there's a whole process before that to be able to get the software released on that date. We have to align the processes of Microsoft, of Sony for PlayStation, of the Epic Games Store, as well as Steam on PC, the Windows Store as well. And that means that we have to have software ready, I believe, about a month ahead of when it's intending to come out. So that all those platforms can run their own tests and checks. Now, they're not the kinds of checks that we would run, making sure that it's the right train on the right track with the right sounds. They're doing functionality tests to ensure the software functions as they would expect it to for their platforms. But yeah, so that means that a month before that, all those changes had to be submitted to those platforms, and then before that, our QA team need between a month and 2 weeks to change, depending on the size of the changes or what's being released. So you're talking 2 months before that point. The software has to be done and finished from the development team. Now, because there's all those platforms to manage, I believe it was 9 on the last count. then the team who take the software when it's finished and then coordinate it to all these people and sending out, individual instructions and sending out separate communication to all these platforms, that's a lot for them to manage. And so, and we're not talking a small team either. So it's a case of it's not appropriate to add yet more work to them, given that they've already got a set number of, they've already maxed out the number of times they can go to each of these platforms and do updates.
Now, obviously, talking about updates as well, it's just popped into my head. Obviously, on Friday, we pushed out a patch that wasn't really scheduled. It was in response to the Sherman Hill feedback, and this fixed I don't know if you heard, but the bell wasn't working correctly, for example. Now, how is it we're able to put updates out like that after the launch of the product, but we're not able to put out, say, the preservation stuff as and when we feel like it?
So again, it comes down to the scope of that update and that change. We are allowed, as a company, compared to on all these platforms, we are allowed a number of instances of emergency fixes and patches. I think the term I hear is rapid patch.
Yes.
And that goes through a separate process where it's kind of a jump the queue situation.
Right.
But that is monitored by the platforms. It's not allowed to be abused. We can't just start using another system for a different purpose. And they have to be very limited, very narrow in scope changes. So we can't suddenly add a new timetable to a route or add a whole new feature.
Okay, that actually makes a lot of sense. And obviously, these rapid patches as well are quite they're different per platform, because obviously we were able to push it out on Friday for PC. However, we've had to wait until today for console.
Exactly, yeah, and that just goes to show the different stages that each of those platforms have for us to be able to release stuff. We obviously have a much stronger relationship because we've been working with them for so long with Steam, and Microsoft and Sony are ginormous corporations, and we have to abide by their rules. So yeah.
Now, Golden Ticket said these roadmap streams are starting to become pointless and one-sided. Some people are asking questions and we're talking about the same things over and over. Now, Golden Ticket, if you have a specific question you'd like answered, please do ask it and we'll do our best to answer it. But you will find that in the roadmaps, we do actually cover a lot of the same stuff over and over, because even though the roadmap might not necessarily have a lot of movement, we still give you the up-to-date information as it currently stands. I believe Sam has previously compared it to a weather forecast. Even if the weather forecast is still the same, you still give the weather forecast. So it is often why they can seem a bit repetitive.
And the other aspect, I guess, worth touching on is that it became very apparent that we couldn't keep parity between the way planned fixes were described and the way fixes were actually described, because they were being written by two different parts of the company. You had the news side saying, hey, we're going to go and fix this, we're going to go and improve this, and then you had the developers who speak very technical language, as Sam loves to hold me to, where we say we fixed this particular blueprint or we adjusted this particular piece of data, and then on the end of that we had to try and marry the two back together. And what we found is it became very, very difficult with the number of things that we had said we were going to do versus how they were described when they were fixed, that the information never seemed to marry up, and that was just upsetting a lot of people. And obviously we don't want to upset people with seemingly not coming out with consistent information, so we decided to roll it in a bit and be a bit more broad in the roadmap and the information, the terms. So for example, we're now working on the preservation update for Great West Express, and then when it gets to the patch notes, we can just do one pass of here's all the information in a digestible form of exactly what has changed, whereas the roadmap obviously just said we're going to update that DLC.
Now, we've had a few questions come in. So Rhb 1917 asked, how did the broken rail driver functionality on Rainbow Austin slip through the net?
So it turned out to be one of those tests that we did so many tests, and they're still going on for the rail driver on all the locomotives that are still waiting for it. It happened to be one combination of tests that we didn't do, and that was to remove the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr rail driver, or the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr locomotive, because obviously we're looking at the whole spectrum and seeing, okay, does everything operate, does everything work? And actually it was a different bug, a different issue that then caused the train that doesn't yet have rail driver support to substitute in. Now, I looked at a lot of the reports about issues with the Rhine-Ruhr-Osten, it's the BR422 train, about it using vehicles from the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr route. Well, actually, it's not. Those two trains are set up to appear on other German routes when they can be when the 4-car unit can be switched in for S-Bahn services. But what was happening inadvertently is they were able to easily interchange with each other. And so while Rhine-Ruhr-Osten's version of the train fully supports rail driver right now, the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr version doesn't. And if they change, then all of a sudden the Rhine-Ruhr-Osten version, you're actually driving the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr version, and you've lost rail drive support. So I'm doing two things right now. One, trying to find out if we can put out the rail driver support for the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr version, because clearly that's going to be a benefit all round.
Yes.
But also look to improve how those trains switch with each other, and can we maintain the ability for the 422 to appear on other routes, but at the same time stop them interchanging with each other. And that's obviously the longer term fix, so that everything's more stable. But yeah, my first priority at the moment is seeing, can we get the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr train rail driver support.
And so does that fall under one of the new additions, which is the Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr preservation update?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, in all fairness, the rail driver work is now done, inverted commas, because it's moved to the testing phase. And we have a fantastic group of players in our Discord beta team who have the rail driver, and they are going back and forth through every locomotive with a fine-tooth comb with their rail drivers, and ensuring things like consistency. We had some great feedback that our early implementations of rail driver seem to be a bit on a per project basis. But now that we've tackled the remaining ones and we're looking at the whole catalogue, we can go, right, some of the ones over here, some of these older ones maybe are not functioning in a consistent way with the newer set. So they've been giving some great feedback. So yeah, we're still ongoing, ironing out some of the inconsistencies with the rail driver setup. And as each route comes out, because the rail driver support goes with a route update, you'll see those coming online. And yeah, I'm also looking at the great community thread on the forum about which trains and routes have rail driver support.
Yes, there is actually an excellent thread. It's color coded and everything, and it has very clear descriptions about which ones are currently available and which ones are not. Now, to some community questions. Golden Ticket has asked, Adam, currently Peninsula Corridor trains do not pop up in the scenario planner. Will that be fixed in the next update?
The next update is far too broad a term, because that could be an update to any part of the software. I would want it to be in the next update to Peninsula Corridor, but again, I don't have that control.
Right.
The expansion of the scenario planner for Peninsula Corridor has been done. There is much larger spectrum of trains to be able to use. I believe we have also now done an expansion of where you can drive to and from. And recently I just got all the localization back, so that it's all translated into all the supported languages. Yep. So yes, the expansion's been done. It's now part of the queue to be tested and released. Again, when it gets released, I couldn't possibly say.
Okay. Now, shall we talk about some of the other preservation updates that have obviously been listed on this roadmap? And can we go into a bit of detail about what you've got planned for them all? So, shall we start with the ones that are in planning, which are obviously the Tees Valley Line, Habstruck Rhine-Ruhr, and East Coastway? And I've seen some people in the chat asking, what's going to be changed?
So this pass that we're doing, that is basically what comes under those titles on the roadmap, is we're adding the big hitter features. This is things like the level crossings, the dynamic level crossings, the PIS systems, the platform information systems on the stations, so that when you're there on foot, you can see when the trains are running. Yeah. This is updating the skybox so that it is using the Train Sim World 2 generation skybox, and this will also benefit from the mod that London Midland has provided us. We are improving the track rendering, so as you're looking down the track, how far the track begins to blur in front of you, how far out you can see individual sleepers and rail details and things. We're adding the platform climb up, so there's actually quite an old feature that we've been trying to bring in, where originally, and it was intentional, you could only climb up onto the platform from the track at the designated places where there was a step. If you're standing on an English platform there and you look along the opposite platform, there'd be these odd bricks that stick out along the platform, and that is where people can climb up from the track to the platform. Whereas what we realised that while that was a great piece of authenticity, it didn't really fit in the, dare I say, the game world.
Right.
And therefore, players were much more interested in, I've jumped on the track, I just want to get back on the platform. I don't want to have to run to the actual steps. That just feels an inconvenience. So, we went through and we've now been adding it in so that you can climb up on the platform. Again, that's one of those low-risk updates. What are some of the others? I've actually stepped away from this. The road traffic, sorry. So the animated road traffic, again, a big thing that the preservation crew want to do is add more life and that feeling of life to routes. So it was around the Long Island Railroad release when we added actual traffic moving around the roads. And that's something that any route released before Long Island Railroad didn't have moving traffic. It was all static. So we've been going through and adding that in. A recent route that benefited from that was West Somerset Railway. So it's along those kinds of caliber. Rail Driver is another one. Unfortunately, livery designer support does not fall into this category. That's actually turned out to be the longest job to do on each rail vehicle. It takes an artist 5 days to do a rail vehicle. It can vary, so a little wagon will probably take less time, and something like the high-speed train on Great Western Express, where it's got 6 different carriages, locomotive, that's going to take a lot longer than 5 days.
Does that mean that these updates won't include the livery designer then?
That is correct. At the moment, some of them will. So Peninsula Corridor, that work was already done. It has been done. But the rate at which we're able to add livery designer support is well below the rate at which we're able to update the rest of the routes and trains. Yeah. So that is one that I'm also looking at an alternative solution to. Yeah. That's a case where my team doesn't have enough capacity to get through these fast enough because it's such a long task.
Is this
where a lot of these other things are a day or less to implement.
Is this something that you would like to add to the game? As in, do you have the intention to eventually add that when the team have the capacity?
It's still on the to-do list. It's still something that comes up, but the rate at which we can get through them, as I say, is a lot slower. So while we're getting through route upgrades very quickly, in that same period of time, we might get 1 or 2 vehicles. The last time I counted, there were still 74 vehicles needing livery designer support. So it's going to take us a while to get there. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm putting that in that's taking too long. That's an unacceptable length of time to wait to get that support. So I'm looking at other solutions that we can deliver that because, we want to do it faster.
Will the Oakville update that is in that's in upcoming have the livery designer support?
I'm gonna say it doesn't. No, I don't believe Oakville has support.
Is that something you can confirm for me tomorrow, and maybe I can update people that want to know?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can.
Excellent. And let's answer a couple more questions because obviously the chat has been scrolling away while you've been talking.
Will we get animated diggers?
I was going to ask that one.
I saw that. Yes, there is an animated digger. That's like a little set scene piece. But I'd like to see more construction vehicles. That's a great area we could add life across the route.
Graham Haddam has asked, for the fear of it being missed, I'll ask again. Any news on a Class 313 update? Matt mentioned he wanted its acceleration and braking physics looked at by the person who set it up. So that's not something I think we're able to answer during this particular stream, but it is something I can chase Matt up on and try to get you an answer for on that one, unless you have any information.
No, all I would say is that is going to sit in the high risk camp. Changing locomotive physics and its ability and performance has a very big knock-on effect to anything else that is going on with that train. So it might be a 5-minute fix to change a value in its performance, but it could be several weeks of testing of where that's been used. So it's one of those that the fix is very easy, the testing is very hard.
Derek has asked, will you do Spanish routes? I believe the answer we normally give to that is never say never. However, unless you see it on the roadmap, assume it's not being worked on. Yeah. And that is an answer I know people don't like. But it's sort of, nothing is off the table. But yeah, currently I know for a fact we're not actually working on anything Spanish.
Maybe if there's interested third parties out there that want to do a Spanish route, get in touch.
That was something Matt said, if there's third parties that want to do perhaps more adventurous ones, or not even more adventurous, just different ones. By all means.
Now, there is obviously criteria to getting on board with doing third-party developments and doing content for Train Sim World at the moment. We are working very hard to improve that and to make that more accessible. But at the moment, there is a level where you have to be reasonably sound in what you're intending to do for us to start that up.
Jana Dunk said, did the Sherman Hill update on Steam go out today as the collectibles are still broken? Yes, an update did go out today that was supposed to stop the invisible wall on some of the collectibles. So if you're still having issues with that, please, again, I'm going to ask for imagery or just information. Tell us where it is and I will make sure the team are aware of that. Let's have a look.
Has one here. Adam, while upgrading the older routes, can you also please look at the stopping points of the trains? It is odd if only half the train is at the platform, as the stopping points are placed awfully. So, funny enough, yes is the short answer. That's something I've done recently I did for Oakville Subdivision, because we hadn't run passenger trains along that section, along the station section of that route. The stopping points weren't fully set up. So we've added those in, and if you ever see an instance where the train stops with its nose exactly halfway down the platform, that means it couldn't find the stopping point that it was expecting. So in the UK, we have these little boards on platforms that say 2-car, 4-car, 6-car, generally for multiple unit operation. You might see the letters HST, and that would be for a high-speed train stopping point. What we do with stopping points on platforms is we will set up appropriate 2-car, 4-car. Generally, they'll be invisible because in the real world there might not be an actual sign. If there is, then we'll put the real sign in. But then there'll be one at the end where we put in a number like 20 vehicles. Because we don't expect a train any longer than 20 to stop at that station, for example. If a train has 21 vehicles, as it approaches the station or as it gets planned for its stop, it will not be able to find a sign that's appropriate for it, and it will default to just stopping in the middle of the platform, because it knows that if the nose of the train is in the middle of the platform, it's got to where it needed to go. So that is something we're looking at as the preservation crew go through each route.
Adrian's asked, and it's actually a very good point. With the phrase, if it's not on the roadmap, we're not working on it, doesn't that contradict the new system where things aren't put on the roadmap until a while into development? I get that, but I would say just assume that if it's not on there, it's not being worked on, for the simple reason we might be planning it, and then the plan might change, and then you'd end up really disappointed if it didn't.
The 313 is a perfect example.
Yes.
We put that on the roadmap. That was one of the first things, or very early on, to go on the roadmap, and plans changed and it moved around. And then the scheduling changed and it moved around. And then where it fitted in our schedule for the year moved around. And so it was on there, and then it was not, and then it was in planning, and then it was in production. And that didn't garner a very good response, even though that was a real-time situation of what was going on with that project. So again, that's kind of that's what I love about the roadmap, is that we can be dynamic and we can respond and react. So stuff, and Sam and Natalie are very, very stringent that if it goes on the roadmap, it's something that is definitely happening.
Yes.
And it's not allowed to be on the roadmap if it's not. So it's more confidence that what's on the roadmap is actually happening, rather than if it's not on the roadmap, what's going on with it. If it's on the roadmap, you've got some level of confidence with it.
And I think there's no denying either that, you know, we're open to improving the roadmap, we're open to improving the streams and how we deliver this information to the community. You know, we hear some people that are a bit perhaps frustrated with the roadmaps lately, or disappointed, or feel like it's not providing you with much value. We're hearing that, you know, and we are talking about ways that perhaps we can improve it, and, you know, ways we can deliver the information better to you. But we don't have anything set in stone just yet, do we?
No, and I guess the more we write on the roadmap, there's less for me to talk about when it comes to the stream. And of course, I love to talk, so we can't take too much of my material away, as it were.
And then, finally, Adam, can we talk about the items that are in production, which are obviously the Great Western Express, the Northern Transpennine, and Rhb Anniversary?
Yes, so for Great Western and Northern Transpennine, we teased in the previous roadmap stream that we were doing period-appropriate passenger information screens. So these were the yellow monitors, although admittedly I think we showed a blue one, but that was because the reference material we were using. But yeah, we put in the cathode ray tube CRT monitors onto the Northern Transpennine. Again, only in stations that are appropriate, so I think they actually only appear on Manchester, Huddersfield and Leeds. We're then, once that's finished, we're going to port that over to the Tees Valley line when that comes up, so they're in planning at the moment. I've had a lot of feedback about improving the Great Western Express timetable, and while I have a lot of personal connection to that route, it's not something on the roadmap at the moment. Where we did updates to, say, the West Somerset Railway timetable or the Rapid Transit timetable, there were clear gaps that we could, and we knew how to go in and fill those and sort those out. It isn't as clear with the Great Western Express because there isn't that much stock that's available to fill in some of the services. Also, the route is set back in 2016, and obviously it's changed significantly since that point now. It's now a fully electrified route, although there are some diesel units still running around. So do we do a new original timetable? Also, you've got to factor in there are only 21 of the multiple unit type that we put in there, the 166. Right. So there are only 21 trains that can ever run around, because there is no 166 022, for example. Mm-hmm. So we're actually rather limited on what we can do with the timetable on Great Western Express. But yeah, we're going through improving the skybox, the rendering, the platform climb up. Something that happened on Northern Transpennine is we were missing a particular key building, the CIS building in Manchester. Right. That predated the date that the route is set. So the route is set, I believe, in 1983. I always get Tees Valley and Northern Transpennine mixed up because they're both set in the 80s, but a different date. Mm-hmm. And yes, so we were asked to put in this big tall skyscraper in the middle of Manchester. So that's one of the things we've been doing as well. And then finally, just quickly, we've also been doing the mastery. So this is working with Dovetail Live to add in rewards and scenery additions and things. So still working on those.
Yeah. Now a couple of questions that have cropped up. Camilla Lowy, I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing that wrong. Is it too late to report bugs for this pass of the Great Western Express and Northern Transpennine? I don't think it's ever too late to report bugs. But
it's never too late for any feedback.
Yeah.
You know, as we've talked earlier in the stream, we are working really hard to move to a more frequent update model. So we can turn around, or the work does turn around generally very quickly. But then it takes a long time for it to be released, and that's the frustration. So always, if you have feedback, do post it. That's one of the core values and the intentions of the preservation crew, is that we are there actively in the community. We are taking feedback. We are listening to player interest and player desires, and we're then trying to turn that round so that something you've purchased, something you love a lot, something you get great enjoyment from, we can further that experience and continue and enjoy that. So yeah, and I've had experience in developing, and I've been able to play a part in a lot of development of these routes and trains. So I also have a great love to see that they're continued to be used and people continue to get enjoyment from them.
Yeah. Simon said, can you make add-ons cheaper? My wife won't let me give you any more money. Oh, sorry about that, Simon. You'll have to ask really, really nicely. Christmas is coming up.
Yes. I saw a question there from Scaronium Hunter. Is that, will working CIS screens come to the West Cornwall local line? Yes, we actually did work very closely with Rivet on the older style of platforms information screens, but we weren't able to complete the work before their production had to come to a close. So it was disappointing that they weren't in, but we will be working with them to bring those in. At the moment, it's not an active development. Rivet Games have their own schedule and what they're working on, but it falls into that remit for sure. And now that we have the tech and we have the art, we can make that available to them.
Yeah. Preston said, what's happening about the bugged collectibles on London commuters? If there's any collectibles that can't be achieved, I believe the team are probably aware of it, and they will be working to fix that. But I'm afraid I don't have any kind of time frame for you off the top of my head. Kalido said,
well, that someone mentioned Dewsbury on Northern Transpennine should have PIS, so I've noted that down, and also to give a review of the stop markers at Crocombe, Willerton and Blue Anchor, because they're interfering with signals. So yeah, thank you very much for that detail. I've noted those down.
Excellent. Calidor said, is the goal for the preservation crew to get the routes caught up individually so you can then make small changes across the field in future?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, I'd say we've about covered everything tonight, and we've covered quite a lot of hard topics. So, you know, we do understand that it's frustrating when these updates take so long to come out, and you know, I think Adam, you in particular, like you said, and the preservation crew, you have a hard time when they don't come out quickly as well, because it's frustrating for you. Yeah. So we do understand how the community feel about it, and you know, and like I said, please do keep giving us feedback. Do not underestimate, and I will keep telling everybody that, do not underestimate how valuable the community feedback is. It's great. We make this game for you guys, and you know, we need to know how you feel about everything. So do keep telling us. Tell us what you like and tell us what you don't like. You know.
Yeah, because what the preservation crew is not only implement fixes or improvements, but we're also looking at expansions as well. So areas that we can add things that maybe weren't there before.
Expansions.
So we can make we can make aspects that are more appealing. So a quick example would be we renovated the port area on the main Specibahn route, where it was previously run down, not very loved, because it was an area of the route that wasn't used when it was released. But when the BR204 came out and you could drive around that whole area, suddenly the spectrum of the scenery didn't quite meet player expectations. So we went in and redesigned the container port so that it was much better use. So feedback like that as well.
So, yeah.
I did see one, sorry, I want to jump in, is there was talk on the passenger operation for Oakville Subdivision. Have I been looking at a weekend or a weekday timetable? What I will say is that I'm definitely aware of the community discussion about what services you can get from which particular timetable you look at. I'm trying to find the most appropriate path on that. There was a particular timetable I was looking at, but through reading that community discussion, I'm being more open-minded about what is being implemented.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I would say that is about it. So yeah, just keep talking to us, everyone. We're reading it. It's great. And well, what have we got for the rest of the week, Adam? Have we got more? What have we got tomorrow? What day is it tomorrow?
I'm so blinded by my own performance on the roadmap. Apologies, I don't know what the rest of the Railfan TV is doing.
I think tomorrow is Workshop Wednesday, and then Thursday is actually another G6 stream. That'll be me and Matt.
I just keep thinking of that rap song about a G6. I can't help it.
Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful night, and thanks for joining us. And yeah, just like I said, just keep talking to us on the forums, on the Discord, on socials. We're reading it all. So, good night from me.
And good night from me.